Thank you, Madam Deputy President. I'm rising to speak on the Marriage Law Survey Additional Safeguards Bill to say that the Greens will be supporting this bill given the circumstances that we're in. We've been negotiating with the government and are relatively happy with the outcomes. But as I said, given the circumstances that we're in, we are on a long, winding, damaging path to marriage equality, but I know we're going to get there in the end. So we are taking stock of where we're at, we're moving forward, and we accept that this bill is going to make some improvements on what would be an even more damaging process. As people know, the issue of marriage equality is a personal one for me as well as a political one. And I think we've got my relationship with my wife Penny is one that's shared by not very many couples in Australia. And it's an interesting, if not an almost unique perspective. When my wife Penny and I were married 31 years ago, she was a bloke. So we fitted the stereotype of being the perfect couple. We married in the church, we bought a house, we had 2 kids and fitted hand in a glove to being mainstream Australia. Then, of course, some 17 years later, she transitioned and became the woman that she truly was. And we went from being the perfect couple, the ordinary couple, the mainstream Australian couple, to being weird, to being discriminated against. Because suddenly our marriage wasn't acceptable. Suddenly we were weird, that we were not normal. And suddenly, if Penny wanted to complete her affirmation as a woman by changing her gender on her birth certificate, we were going to have to divorce. Of course, we didn't want to get divorced. We were still a happily married couple. We had 2 wonderful children. But that was what our law says that we need to do. And so, of course, Penny's birth certificate has sat in her bottom drawer since then. She hasn't been able to use it as her identity document. She hasn't been able to complete that affirmation of herself as a woman. And basically it's because we, as a same-sex couple, are still in our society seen as not being normal. Still in our society. I mean, when we're presented as a man and a woman, we used to hold hands in the street. We used to kiss in public. But now, you know, over the last 17 years, over the last 13 years, we self-censor ourselves. We generally don't hold hands in public. We get used to the fact that if we are holding hands in the street, that we're likely to be ready for the possibility of having a car driving past, wind down its window and hurl abuse at us. That's what the reality of being a same-sex couple in Australia still is. So we are on a journey to be changing that. Australian society has changed incredibly over the last decades in the time that I've been an adult. And achieving marriage equality is going to be an incredibly important marker on that journey. And I'm imagining that once we achieve marriage equality, we will continue on that journey where we will be able to hold hands in the street, where we will be able to not have to worry about abuse or violence. We will be able to be who we are all the time. And I'm imagining that other people who haven't had the privilege that Penny and I have had of being married will be able to have that privilege. They will be truly equal. I mean, this is what we're fighting for. We're creating that Australia. This postal survey is not the way that we wanted to achieve this equality. People's rights should not be put to a public vote. We should have had a free vote in the Parliament and got it done. Got it done and dusted easily, straightforwardly, without putting LGBTIQ Australians, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex and queer Australians to the pitfalls of a public vote. And the debate over the last month just shows how huge those pitfalls are. The difficulty of achieving the Prime Minister's respectful debate. We've seen those horrible posters. My social media pages have been filled with the most appalling homophobic and transphobic comments. And I've spoken to so many LGBTIQ people over the last couple of weeks who feel that the world isn't as welcoming, isn't as safe as they felt it was a month ago. That they feel not as sure in themselves in getting out of bed in the morning and facing what they see can be quite a hurtful and not protective environment. I've talked to mental health providers who've told us of the uptick in the number of people seeking support because of their sexuality or their gender identity. And basically, this level of debate comes down to a base level that's still there in Australian society of homophobia, of transphobia, of not accepting that lesbian, gay, transgender, intersex and queer people exist, that they should not have the rights of other people. People are feeling justified to pass judgment on others, and that judgment has been very hurtful and very damaging to many people. And fundamentally, why this postal survey has not been the appropriate way to go is that why should they feel that they're able to pass that judgment? Why should they feel that they're able to pass judgment on my marriage, on my relationship with Penny, on whether our kids have been well cared for? I mean, they didn't get that chance. They didn't get that chance to pass judgment when Penny and I were the perfect heterosexual couple. But that's where we're currently at. Given the determination of this government, despite us here in the Senate rejecting the compulsory plebiscite for all of the reasons I've just been outlining, despite we've had the government that's been determined to put our rights to a public vote, to put marriage equality to a public vote. So this is where we're now at. So we have picked ourselves up and we are putting our best foot forward. We Greens, along with many others in this parliament now, are campaigning positively, loudly, for love, with love. We're supporting this bill today as something that's patching up a damaged parcel. This bill is the string and sticky tape that's holding this parcel together, that's going to enable us to reach our destination of achieving equality, and through a journey that's bumpier than we would have liked. But I know that we're going to get there. We will, at the end of this bumpy, quite damaging journey, we are going to achieve marriage equality. The provisions in this bill, the sticky tape and the string that are holding it together, that are of value and that I thank the government for putting forward, particularly the authorisation provisions, so at least we know when there are damaging, hurtful things being said, when there is discrimination and vilification being made as part of this public debate, that if that material is authorised, that there will be comeback against that. And we have negotiated, very importantly, the vilification provisions to guard against such hurtful, hateful speech and public debate. I'm hoping that, in fact, there won't be any legal action as a result of this legislation. I'm hoping that by having it here, it will, in fact, be a deterrence to such vilification, and it will mean that there will be a more respectful debate, that people will feel that maybe to take a step backwards and to just having the threat of legal action hanging over them will actually make them hold off a bit from what they have been saying over the last 4 weeks. So I'm hopeful. I'm always the optimist that that's going to be the case. And at the end of it, that we will achieve a resounding yes vote. And I know the level of support in the community And I know that as long as we can get people out to vote, that Australians are fair, Australians are considerate, Australians do want to achieve equality, and above all, Australians want this to be over and done with. Australians want to see equality being reached. So many of the people I talk about say, "What? Just get on and do it." I mean, that's why we should have had a parliamentary vote, because that was the simplest, most straightforward, least damaging and the celebratory moment by having a free vote in this parliament. And of course, we still know at the end of this non-binding postal survey, we will have to have that free vote. But we could have not gone through this damaging, tortuous, arduous journey that we've been put on it. But I know that at the end of it, when we have achieved that free vote, when we have got legislation through this parliament, we will finally achieve equality, and that two people who love each other, who are in a committed relationship, will be able to marry, and that Penny and I will be able to stay married and she can affirm her gender identity, and that people from across the rainbow spectrum, it's not just same-sex couples. I mean, the question that we're being asked in this survey is talking about same-sex couples. We know it's not just same-sex couples, it's people across the rainbow spectrum. It's transgender people, people who are gender diverse, gender fluid, people of intersex status. These are the people, all of these people, that will be treated as equal under the law in terms of being able to commit to the person that they love. I'm so looking forward to the weddings that we're going to have at the end of this process, and I'm expecting to be invited to quite a lot of them. I'm thinking of so many of my friends in those loving, committed relationships over the years, some of them decades that I've known them. Felicity and Sarah. Felicity, who was one of the plaintiffs in the High Court, looking at their wonderful relationship and their wonderful children. I don't know whether they want to get married, but they are the people that you should be thinking of who are going to benefit from marriage equality. Mark and Tony, Sean and Jay, who have been engaged and are now just waiting. Kathleen and Helena. I could go on and on and on. These are the people and their rainbow families that exist, that are waiting to achieve equality under the law. I mean, achieving marriage equality is a straightforward question of fairness and equality. And every Australian should be able to be being treated under the law, and that includes being able to marry the person that they love. This legislation is an important part to reduce the damage of the journey that we're going on to achieve that equality. It's fixing up a flawed process, but it's the process, it's the journey we are now on. I'm hopeful at the end of this process, when we achieve marriage equality, it will be a unifying moment for our nation. We will finally have been able to include all Australians in our marriage laws. So I am really looking forward to just getting on with it. Let's get this done and we can all move forward and be celebrating love in our society.
Thank you, Senator Rice.